Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Alia and I crochet. Last week I showed you how to make a granny square. I have now made 4 like I said in the video. So 2 that start with brown and end in white, and 2 that start with white and end in brown. I also have unearthed my stash of zippers and found this this beauty that is brown and has a dark pink sort of zip area. So I'm going to show you how to align these squares and how to then join them together so that we can make a bag. So if you're interested in that, please keep watching. So first and foremost, we need to make sure that we align these squares the way that we need to. So we've got these 2 squares that we need to fold in half. Now, one thing that I'm going to just make sure is the place where I kept doing, the 5 double crochets is not folded, and that is here. So I'm going to fold it like this in half, and I'm going to do the same with this square, which was joined on this side. So I'm going to fold it in half like this, and don't worry if it's slightly wonky when you fold it. We will make sure that does not bother the final result. And then we have these 2 squares, which I actually already have wrong sides together, that we're going to put in the middle. And this is how we are going to join them to create the bag. So this is going to be one of those little shoulder, crossbody, bum bag type of bags. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab some yarn. Now, it doesn't really matter which color we use, but I think I will use the white yarn just to, I don't know, for no reason other than that's what I have chosen to go with. And we basically need to make sure that we join the seams here, as well as here, these 2 together, and again on the other side, these bits as well. And of course, I can't really leave the yarn on the skein when I'm joining, so I'm just gonna take some off. I don't really have a length, but I think what I've heard before is that you should not have this longer than the length between basically what you hold, and then you need to just stretch your arm out and pull it all the way up to your shoulder. So I've definitely gone over that, but that is fine. So I am just going to do twice that because I don't want to keep having to seam things in, or actually I'm gonna go with this amount that I just went with. Then I'm gonna of course make sure that I put it through my needle. There we go. And then we can begin. So the way that we're going to do this is, and this is very important, we need to make sure that we have the correct, the start and the end. And because we're not crocheting, the start and the end is not where the double crochet start and end. We are also counting the chains. So what I'm going to do is I am going to just grab a little stitch marker, and I'm going to show you. Okay, so the first ones that I want to join are these 2. I want to join these 2 together, so it's very important that I join these sides together. So we're going to just look at this one. As I said, this is the last stitch that you would double crochet in, so that makes this the last stitch to join in. And this would be, let's see, if we would normally crochet in this stitch, then this would be the last stitch, or the first stitch actually, to join in. So I'm just going to put these here, and I'm going to do the same for this square. So again, this is where we would join, so it is the stitch before that where we have to, there we go. And then on this end it's slightly tricky because this is actually the side where we joined. So if I would put a single crochet in here, then it is here that I will need to join. This is going to be a little bit tricky, but it's okay. It's absolutely fine. And so the way that we want to do this is we join in the back loop, and we're going to kind of do zigzag back and forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these 2 together. Now I know that I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh wow, this messes up the whole visual, and you're right. But I would say in this case, just trust the process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just remove this. I'm going to just make sure that I remember where I need to put that needle in. So that is here. And then I'm gonna do the same on this side. So that needle needs to go in here. And I'm just gonna pull all that yarn through. Now I took way too much yarn, so this is gonna take a little bit of time, but that's okay. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave a little bit of a tail so that I can weave this in toward the end. So I'm just gonna make sure that I put my thumb on that so that it doesn't accidentally move. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep grabbing these back loops. So these are, so as you can see here, this is the back loop, and then this right here as well is the back loop. So I'm just gonna go through those. Oh. There we go. And I'm gonna do the next stitch the exact same way. So I'm just gonna check, because this is of course where I joined, so it's slightly tricky. Just gonna see, because it actually looks like I wasn't quite through the back loop. I missed a little thread here, so I'm just gonna rectify that now. And that really is the annoyance of working with spun yarn rather than chained or crocheted yarn. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to count. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 to go. And here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I just wanted to make sure that this particular, because this stitch looks a little weird, it looks a little flat, so I just wanted to make sure that it was definitely part of the process, and it looks like it is. So I'm just going to see if I can find that back stitch, that back loop, there we go, and the back loop again here. So again, I'm just going to pull the yarn through, and I'm just going to keep doing that until we reach those final 2 stitch markers, these 2. So I'm going to do that now, and then we'll get back when we are okay. I have now come to the end, so I still need to join these last 2 stitches. So I'm actually just inserting the needle here and here, and I'm just going to remove these 2 markers and just pulling that yarn through. It really is really long. I don't think I needed the yarn to be this long, but can't hurt, to be honest. Okay, so I have now joined these 2 together. So if I pull them apart a little bit, you do see the stitching, but I think when you just have them sitting next to each other and you kind of pull in that yarn a little bit like that, it's pretty invisible. So this is what they call a flat seam. And I am going to show you, so this is what it will look like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue the join on this side with the other square that we've made. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Again, here you want to make sure that you look at the first and last stitches. So again, because this would be the last stitch that I would make a double crochet in if it was a square and I was continuing the round, this is the last stitch. And then let's see, so if I would be putting in the double crochet here, then this would be the first stitch. So there we go. And same here, so I'm just looking at, this would be where I put my last double crochet, so this is the last stitch, and then for the first one is of course the one that we have not already joined the yarn in, so it will be this one. I'm still going to just mark them because you never know. So we're going to put these 2 back to back again, and I'm going to just continue joining these. All right, so again, we need to make sure that we're taking the correct loop. So I'm here again going to just put my needle through. I'm just double checking, yes. So actually, I'm going to start from this side, and just so that you can see, this is what I'm doing. So I am putting the needle through here. So that is first and foremost, and then I'm putting it through here secondly, because we're basically just continuing the join. So I'm again gonna just remove those stitch markers, and we're going to just continue our joining. I really didn't need to make this yarn this long. It's catching up to me. Yeah, if you have any little knots in your yarn, you know, just untie them, it's all good. But I would actually recommend that maybe you go over the seam that you need to sew in, and maybe just have twice that length, and I think you'll be fine. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm just gonna continue, because at the end of the day, the end result is what matters. So again, I'm just gonna keep sewing this in. So I'm gonna just keep continuing up until the point where we are at the next stitch markers, and then I will show you what it looks like. All right, I have landed at the final 2 stitches, so I'm just going to stitch that up. Just gonna pull that through. So remember to keep working in the back loops and don't cut off as much yarn as I did, and you will be absolutely fine. All right, so just for context, I'm just putting this through both back loops. I'm gonna remove those 2 stitch markers. I actually have good grip on my needle there, because otherwise it will slip out. There we go. Okay, so now that I have joined that thing of yarn, here is how we can see we are doing right now. So I of course put both, so it looks quite funny because it looks like this, and actually what's even funnier is that I now need to join the yarn like this for the other side, which actually when you then lay it flat does not make a square, unfortunately, because we need to basically work with these sides rather than these sides. But as you can see, we have now joined one side of the bag. I will need to just cut this yarn, and I will need to weave in these 2 ends, so the one on this side and the one on this side. So I will do that, and I can show you how to do that as well. But what I'd like to get done first is just make sure that I join the other side, and then of course we do still need to join that bottom side as well, before we can continue with the top of the bag, because I don't really want to leave it like this. I will probably just give it a little bit of stitching, so that when you open the bag, you know, I want to give it a little bit of width at the top, so that it's not just a zipper and a pouch, but so that it feels a little bit more like a bag. All right, let's get to it. So again, I will just mark off where I need to start and end the joining. So again, it is here in this back loop, and here in this back loop. I believe we have found the other place where we have joined. And in this square, it is, let's see, here in this back loop, and here in this back loop. So I'm going to again join my yarn, and I'm going to join those. So I think I'm going to start here in the brown. There we go. I'm gonna remove that. This is a little bit tight because we're at the place where we had joined the rounds before. So just go through there, and again go through here. Remove those markers. There we go. I just cut off that yarn at the other place where I was joining, and so I'm just gonna, there we go. I actually need to just double check that I'm doing this correctly, because no. So I actually, I should not start here, I should start on the other side. So I'm just gonna put that stitch marker back in, over here and over here. And we're going to start at the other side, because that way we can then continue on from where we stopped. So again, I'm going to lay these flat together, and I am going to insert my needle here and here. I'm going to, again, I'm just going to hold on to that needle, put it between two fingers, and I'm going to remove these stitch markers. I'm just going to go ahead and pull that yarn through. So it is thankfully a little bit shorter now, and we're just going to continue to join the two back loops for each of these. All right, and I will again get back when we have reached these two blue stitch markers. Okay, so we are nearly at the end here. So again, I'm just gonna go through that back loop and this back loop. And through the final ones. So I'm just gonna pull it. Well, I'm not gonna do that because that will make me pull it twice. So I'm just gonna pull it through these loops. Just gonna remove those stitch markers real quick. There we go. I don't want the yarn to get caught in them. Okay, so now we have joined this side as well. And what we now wanna do is join this side, which is not quite the last side, but it's almost the last side. The only part that is slightly tricky about this is we kind of want to do it this way. So what I'm going to do is I am again just going to make sure that I have the correct start and end places. So start place on white and the end place on white. And for the blue, this would be the starting place on blue, or sorry, on brown, and the ending place. There we go. On the brown, is it quite? It's not quite, no. Okay. So this is the final place on the brown. So just gonna continue that on. So my yarn is currently in the white bit, which makes sense and helps us actually because it means that it can go through this part of the white bit and this part of the brown bit so that we can join these two together. Again, I'm going to remove those stitch marks. I know it might seem a little bit annoying to have to put those stitch marks in only to take them out again 5 seconds later, or what will feel like 5 seconds later, but for me it just helps me remember where I am or where I need to be, so I find it really, really useful, and it is not that much effort. So we're just gonna continue stitching this again in these back loops here until we reach the end, which is where the blue stitch markers are. And I will show you what that will look like when we have finished. All right, we've come to the last two joining stitches. So I'm just gonna pull those through. That yarn is still way too long. And then these last bits, so in through here and in through here. Just gonna remove those stitch markers. There we go. And then that is it. So now the sides are all joined up, so I'm just going to show you what that looks like. There we are. so we have almost finished joining these squares. So now all that remains is joining this part, but you can really see it's coming together. So we're gonna just go ahead and join this part. To do this, I'm just gonna turn this inside out for a second, and you can see the little weaved ends, but that is absolutely fine. And I just wanna make sure that I'm not weaving in any stitches that have already been used previously. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm actually gonna just use that marker to mark them together, because why not? All right, so you can see that it is there. Okay. Just putting it through that loop, and I'm just going to do a quick count just to make sure that we're 100% on the same page. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, I think we have a slight issue here. I'm just gonna double check what we want to do here, because we have some very odd numbers. Okay. And this could happen to you as well, because this is basically on this side. It's where we've joined. And so because of that slip stitch, it just looks a little bit off. It looks a little bit odd. So I'm just going to make sure that from stitch marker to stitch marker, I know what the count is here. So that is 17. So I need to have 17 stitches here as well. Okay, so I need to stretch this a little bit. It's going to be slightly awkward. So this is going to be the last stitch, but then this will need to be the pre-last stitch. So it is going to be slightly awkward sewing into that, but at least now we have it all lined up and it's going to fit the way that we need it to. So I'm just going to, I think I'm going to start on this side and just, actually I'm going to start on this side because that'll just help me put my thumb on that little yarn end. So again, I'm going to just remove that stitch marker. And of course, you don't really want to have holes in this at the same time. I'm going to put in a lining, so I'm not super concerned about holes because I think, you know, the granny squares themselves have holes in them to begin with, so that's why I'm not too concerned with having holes at the different you know, joining places, so to speak. So I'm just gonna join these stitches together. I'm really excited. I've never actually made a bag like this before, but I've seen a lot of people do this online. It looked like a fun project to do with not too many granny squares, so something that was going to be done quite quickly. You know, we all love that instant gratification. So I just figured I'd give it a try, and I am liking how it's looking so far. So yeah, I'm just gonna continue seaming these, and I will get back to you when we are getting toward the end. All right, so I've come to the last 2 stitches. I was actually short 1 stitch on that back square, so I just, what I did is I just stitched one of these in the same stitch twice, because you kind of just, you know, you just have to go with the flow. So this is the last bit of the sewing. Just gonna remove those markers. All right, and I am just gonna give this one final stitch because it just doesn't feel like it's very much closed, so can't hurt just adding in that final stitch. And there we go. I'm just gonna cut that yarn a little bit. I will weave in these ends, but weaving in ends is not a lot of fun to look at, so I might not show you, but this is the completely joined bag now. So as you can see, it has a sort of a half moon shape, and the inside looks like this. And so what I now want to do is, I think I'm going to use the brown yarn. I'm just going to crochet a little bit of a border, and I might just add a little bit so that the seam is not, you know, literally on the front and the back, because I feel like that just makes it a pouch, and I want it to feel a little bit more like an actual bag. So I'm gonna weave in the ends, and then I will get back to you when we are going to start adding in the border. Okay, so now that we have joined all of the squares together, I actually noticed that this this part where we joined the two squares together that are ending in brown, when you fold it, you can really see how I've joined it. So I don't really like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip stitch this closed. So we're going to do that. I'm just going to unwind that brown yarn a little bit. There we go. And I'm just going to join this yarn, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a pretty long strand, and I will explain the reason behind that a little bit later on, but I want to leave a strand that is pretty long. So as you can see, it's like quite a long strand. I'm just going to join it like this, and I'm just going to chain one. Okay, and then I'm going to go through those same hoops. I'm going to just pull up another loop, and I'm just going to slip stitch through that, and I'm going to keep continuing to do that. It gets a little bit finicky. I think this might be where we joined the rounds, but that is absolutely fine. I'm going to make sure that I don't you know, that I leave this tail for where it is. I'm just going to slip stitch that around. There we go. Just keep going into those stitches and just slip stitching that. I do apologize if my hand is blocking the camera angle every now and then. I'm not intending it to do that, but you know, you kind of need to twist that hook a little bit here and there. And so what this is going to do is it's going to create a little bit of a braided look there. So I'm going to continue to do that until the very last stitch. I'm just going to see if I can go a little bit faster. I think I've mentioned before that I'm a relatively slow crocheter, so I'm just going to have to go with what we got. So I'm roughly halfway there now. And I'm really hoping that this will improve the look of the bottom of this bag, because even though you won't see it, other people might see it. And of course, you know, when you wear a bag that you made, you want to be happy with the way that it looks. So we're almost there. Right, and this is also where it gets a bit finicky, because the stitches don't necessarily line up the way that they should. I'm just going to see what I can do there. I like to use the nail of my index finger every now and then just to pull the stitches over my needle, especially if they're a little bit tight like this one, because it works, you know. So if it works, why not use it? Okay. All right, and I think we are at the final stitch. So that is this one, just here and here. And there we go. And so now what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to just leave this long tail. Just going to cut that off. All right, there we go. And so now what it'll look like is, when it's flat, it'll look like this. and when it is folded it'll look like this, which I personally think is much neater. It doesn't really help that we had those bits of white in there. They do still shine through a little bit, so if you are making this bag, I recommend that you do this rather than that initial setup that I made. But the reason that I left those long tails is because I basically want to weave them in the inside of the bag. So I'm just going to pull this through to the inside, and the other one as well. You can see that this yarn tail is a lot longer than the other one, which is fab. I'm not going to go through any of those big holes. I'm really going to go into smaller openings. It just helps to maintain the look and feel of the bag. So now that we have pushed those through, then on the wrong side of the work, you're just going to go ahead and weave that in, and just in a way that makes you feel like, you know, you're not going to see much of it on the other side. And so that is by making sure you don't go through the full stitch, but you go through parts of the stitch. So I'm just trying to make it to this side so that I can pretty much just weave it through here. So all these little stitches here is when we did that final round and we attached that brown to that white yarn. That's literally the stitches that we are weaving through right now. We are nearly halfway, so I'm just going to go slightly longer than halfway because this particular end is a little bit longer than the other one. So there we go. Just going to leave that there, and then I'm going to grab this strand. Just going to put that on my needle. Also, if you are using spun yarn like this, and you're having trouble putting it on your needle, feel free to just, you know, cut it a little bit more. So I want to make sure that it is on that side, so I'm just gonna do what needs to be done to make sure that it gets there. So I'm just gonna go through these stitches, and then I'm just gonna go through all these different ones up until the point where I get to where I left this yarn. So just doing that, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm literally just going to tie a knot here, because that way it's going to be very much secure. So there we go, and that really just secures that yarn. So now we can cut that yarn off because there's no need to keep that there. And there we go. That is the piece as it stands so far. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to just go ahead and kind of create a little bit of a top border here. And the way that I'm going to do this, I'm really going to look here and see where, you know, my, let's say, beginning and end is. So I am going to just, sorry for the arm there. So I am just going to say, okay, this is the end, and I'm going to use this little guy as the beginning, this stitch over here, which is the stitch that was almost like slip stitched away, almost. Because what I want to do is I basically just want to see how far my zipper gets. And I want to just make sure that I have a good base here so that it's not obstructed by the fact that there is no zipper on this bit. So I am going to just measure this off a little bit, and I will use my measuring tape. So I live in the Netherlands, I use centimeters. So this is 32, whereas my zipper, I believe, is 20. Yeah, it's about 20. So that means that I need about 6 centimeters on each side to, you know, go off a little bit. So I think 6 centimeters here is roughly this stitch. And 6 centimeters here is roughly this stitch. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to join the yarn, and I'm gonna join the yarn here because of course we crochet from right to left, and so because this is the top border, so to speak, we do want this to look nice and tidy. I'm probably gonna just see if I can grab this stitch. It's always a little bit tricky going into a chain stitch without using it as a space. So just gonna go through that first loop and that second loop. There we go. Okay, so now it is time to join the stitches. So I'm just gonna make a slip knot like we always do. I've already inserted my hook here. It's a little bit tricky to insert your hook into a chain stitch, so feel free to just use one of the loops. I just wanted the back to look a little bit neat and tidy. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do this. Okay, so as always, joining the yarn works like this. We need to pull that through these loops, and then I'm going to just chain one, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into that loop that I just came from. I'm going to just pull the yarn through, and I'm going to, again, when I come out, pull another loop of yarn and go through that. That is a single crochet. What I am going to do is I'm just going to mark that stitch because this is where we started, and I don't want to forget that when we get toward the end. I'm going to make one more single crochet. So again, we go in through those double loops to weave in this end. We're going to keep it in between the loop and the yarn. I'm going to just grab that yarn, pull it through, and grab that yarn again and pull it through both loops. So those are 2 single crochets. I am going to do just one more single crochet. So again, in, pull through, and pull through both loops. All right, now the next 3 that I want to do, or 2, are the half double crochets. So the half double crochet is when you yarn over, as if you're going to make a double crochet. You're going into your stitch, you pull up a loop, and then the difference here between a double crochet and a half double crochet is you now pull up a loop and you go through all 3 loops at once. So that is the half double crochet. So with the double crochet, you would first go through the 2 loops and then pull up another loop and go through the remaining 2. With the half double crochet, you go through all 3. So I'm going to do that one more time. So yarn over, we go through the stitch, we pull up a loop, pull it through the stitch, pull up another loop, and go through all 3. That is a half double crochet. So the next step is up until we get to the point of the, well, actually including the stitch marker, we're going to just do double crochets, okay? In every single stitch, we're just gonna do the double crochets. There we go. Almost there. Final 2, I'm just gonna pull this a little bit, and I'm gonna make sure that this stays at the back of the work. We can cut that off later, that little end. This is the pre-last double crochet, and there we go. And we can just remove that stitch marker now. We're just gonna finish that double crochet just like that. So now we have this row of stitches. The next part is I am going to actually just do single crochet all the way through up until I get to the point where I've put the other stitch marker. And the reason that I'm going to do that is I really just want to be able to make a little bit of a top for this bag, and I want that top to have plenty of room for the actual zipper. So I'm gonna go in, I'm just going to pull through and then pull through the 2 loops. That is a single crochet. We're just gonna keep doing that until we get to that second blue stitch marker. That blue stitch marker we are not going to stitch into with the single crochet. We're going to make the double crochet there. But I'm going to get back to you when we get to that point. So for now, just keep single crocheting along. What I think I'm gonna do is here in that chain 2 spaces, I'm just gonna do, I think 3 single crochets. There we go. And then of course we get to the part where they are being joined. So to just give it a little bit of height, I am going to just double crochet in here. So I'm actually going into the place where the stitches were joined or seamed together. There we go. And then you have that height, and then you can just do another 3 single crochets here. 2 and 3. There you go, so that you have that nice border like that. Okay, and you're just going to keep single crocheting, and we're going to do the same at the other join. And remember where your square begins and ends when it comes to inserting those stitches. So be right back. All right, so when you get to this corner here, what I want you to do is you make 1 single crochet as normal, and then you make 1 half double crochet. Okay, this is just to add that height because that corner is a little bit tricky. Then you're going to go into this bit of the stitch where you have already seamed. You're going to make a double crochet, and then another half double into the next chain 2 space, and another single crochet in there. And what that does is it creates a quite nice and equal line there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep just single crocheting through. I'm going to do the same thing here at this next corner, and I'm going to get back to you when we are about ready to go to that next stitch marker. All right, so we have reached that corner with the chain 2 space. So again, we're going to make a single crochet into that chain 2 space. Then we're going to make a half double crochet. So go through all 3 loops together, and then we're going to just make a double crochet. There we go. All right, another half double into that chain 3 space, chain 2 space I should say, and another single crochet here, and single crochet until we reach the blue stitch marker. All right, so we've now come to the blue stitch marker. I'm just going to remove that, and we just go straight in with a double crochet. Now, if you'll remember, on this side we did a total of just gonna double check that because I did 3 normal, 3 half double, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double crochets. So this is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, so I'm just gonna double check that. I think it might have actually been 7. So I'm just gonna, and then we're gonna go in with 2 half doubles. So 1 and 2, and then 3 singles. So 1, and this is where it gets tricky. 2, and number 3. All right, so that is that first bit done. Of course, we are still seeing a little bit of a indent bump, but I think once we put the lining in, we're not going to see it that much anymore. I'm going to do the other side the exact same way, and the idea is for this to lay flat a little bit so that the zipper can, you know, lay against it like so. So what I'm going to do is on the other side, I'm going to do the exact same thing. So now, of course, we are already here. So I'm just going to go ahead and into that single crochet. There we go. 1, oh, 2, 3, and now we've got 1 and 2 half doubles, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then we're gonna just keep doing the single crochet, and we'll of course do our special stitches here in each of the corners until we get to the point where we need to go back into the somewhat bigger border. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I will get back to you once I finished. All right, so I have now finished that border. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to slip stitch these bits together, and then once that's done, I also am going to slip stitch these bits together. And what that is going to do is it is going to create a little bit of a top for the bag, so that this part that will be left open, we can add the zipper into that. I will be lining this bag because, you know, it's crochet, it's got some holes. You don't really want to put things into a bag and then only when you know, reach home to find out that you have lost some of your precious possessions because they fell through the holes of your crochet bag. But this is roughly what the idea is. So really just, you know, trying to make bag magic happen. All right, so my hook is still attached, and we want to first and foremost slip stitch into this, but we're into this stitch here, but we're not going to do that the normal way. Rather, what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to just go into the front loop of this stitch and the front loop of the other stitch, and I am going to, in fact, that is not, we're going to go the other way around actually. So I'm going to go into the front loop or the back loop here, and just need to find it real quick. and that loop here. And I am just going to go through those loops and then through the loop on my hook, and that is the first slip stitch. And I'm just going to continue on doing that until I have reached that stitch marker, just to join those two together. I hope that this is nicely visible. So again, I'm just going to go through this stitch and through this stitch and just slip those together. And it is of course very important, if you are using spun yarn like I am, very loosely spun yarn, that you don't split the yarn, as always. That is always very important. So this is a total of 12 stitches that I am slipping together on this side, and then once we have finished here, we're gonna just leave that end for now. We're gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. And the reason I'm using these loops that are on the extremities is because I am just sort of hoping that it will help things lay a little bit flat once the joining is complete. So of course I don't know how successful that's gonna be, but I can try. Right, so I'm just going to show you what that now looks like from the top. So we've basically created this little, it's almost like a little boat or a little shoe. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and then that way we will be able to make the bag and just give it a little bit more volume by adding this. It just increases the size of the bag. All right, so now that we have made our top border and we have joined those two bits here, there's now two things that you can do. If you really just don't feel like adding in a lining, you're gonna maybe use this for, you know, bigger items, that's absolutely fine. You can just go ahead and stitch in your zipper and, you know, that's it. You've got your bag finished. However, I am going to make a lining for this bag. If that is something that you want to see how I do that, let me know in the comments. I am quite aware that this video is again pretty long, and I don't know if I should just keep going, but yeah, just let me know if you're interested in seeing how I am adding the lining to this project. But yeah, if you don't want to, you can just sew in your zipper and just use a needle and just use, you know, just a normal seaming technique, just that simple seam. What you can then do for straps is you can just buy a strap at a store. I really don't recommend that you crochet a strap. Just buy something at the store and you can just kind of, you know, pinch the sides and just thread it through. There's some holes here that you can just, you know, thread through, and then you can just use the bag. But yeah, this is how you make a granny square bag. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again in the next one. If you have any requests, any things that you want me to show you how to make, let me know. I can knit as well, so if you want to know about something that is knit rather than crochet, just feel free to just drop it in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next one.